He arrested a man for being too calm, having no idea he was a martial arts legend. In court, when the judge stood up for the accused, the officer's world didn't just stop, it collapsed. The Appalachian Mountains held their breath, shrouded in a cool September mist. For Officer Michael Cole, the beauty of the Blue Ridge Parkway was just a backdrop for potential threats. Every winding curve, every shadowy overlook, was a place where chaos could erupt. A former Marine, Cole saw the world not in shades of gray, but in the stark black and white of threat assessment. The quiet calm of civilian life was a fiction he couldn't afford to believe in. His peace was vigilance, his control was his weapon. Ahead, a vintage Land Rover Defender, black as polished obsidian, moved with an unnerving grace. It wasn't speeding, wasn't swerving. It was perfect. Too perfect. Cole's knuckles whitened on the steering wheel of his cruiser. In his experience, people who followed every rule to the letter were usually hiding something significant. It was a deliberate, almost mocking, compliance that set his teeth on edge. He flipped on the lights. The Defender pulled over instantly, its movements smooth and economical. No hesitation, no panic. Cole's gut tightened. He unholstered his sidearm, resting his hand on the grip as he approached. The driver's side window was already down. Behind the wheel sat a man with his hands at 10 and 2. He wore a simple gray t-shirt that showed a physique still powerful despite the lines of age on his face. A pair of dark, stylish sunglasses hid his eyes, but it was the face that was both familiar and unplaceable. The strong jawline, the distinct accent when he spoke. "Is there a problem, officer?" The voice was deep, calm, with a melodic European cadence that grated on Cole's already frayed nerves. It sounded foreign, out of place. "License and registration." Cole's tone was flat, clipped. The man moved with an infuriating deliberateness, reaching for the glove box without a single wasted motion. Cole's training screamed at him, this wasn't the fumbling of an innocent civilian. This was the practiced calm of someone trained, someone dangerous. His gaze darted around the vehicle. Clean, minimalist interior. Then he saw it, a small, carved wooden clog hanging from the rearview mirror. A bizarre, almost childish trinket. It didn't fit. The man handed over a Belgian driver's license and the vehicle's registration. Jean-Claude. The name was long and complicated. Cole barely glanced at it. His focus was on the man's unnerving stillness. "Step out of the vehicle, sir." "May I ask for what reason?" The man's head tilted slightly. It wasn't a challenge, but Cole heard it as one. "Out. Now." The man complied, swinging his legs out of the car with a fluid motion that spoke of incredible flexibility. As he stood to his full height, Cole saw it as his moment. He closed the distance, grabbed the man's wrist, and spun him against the cold steel of the Defender. The man didn't resist, didn't even grunt in surprise. He simply allowed it to happen, his body absorbing the force. "You are making a big mistake," he said, his voice still even, his face turned towards the metal. "Tell it to the judge," Cole snapped, the familiar click of the handcuffs a reassuring sound in the disquieting silence of the mountains. He was back in control. He had to be. Back at the station, the holding cell seemed to amplify the man's strange tranquility. He didn't pace, didn't demand a phone call. Instead, he stood in the center of the small space, performing a series of slow, controlled stretches. He'd lift a leg with impossible grace, holding it straight in the air, or twist his torso with the suppleness of a man half his age. To the other officers, it was bizarre. To Cole, it was proof. This was not normal behavior. It was the calculated display of a man testing his confines, a predator gauging the strength of its cage. Cole wrote up his report, his words sharp and certain: suspicious behavior. Resisting investigation. Failure to comply. The knot in his stomach felt like vindication. The next morning, the wood-paneled courtroom buzzed with the low hum of routine justice. Lawyers whispered to clients, clerks shuffled papers. Cole stood tall beside the prosecution table, his uniform pressed, his confidence a shield. He was ready to methodically lay out the case, to prove his instincts had been right. "Next case," the bailiff called out. "The People vs. Jean-Claude Van Damme." Cole led the man, now in an orange jumpsuit, to the defendant's table. Judge Robert Evans, a man whose face was a roadmap of his 30 years on the bench, peered over his spectacles. "Officer Cole, you are the arresting officer." "Yes, Your Honor," Cole said, his voice ringing with authority. The accused was operating his vehicle in a suspicious manner. When stopped, he was uncooperative and his behavior indicated a potential threat, leading to his arrest for obstruction. Judge Evans looked from Cole to the man in the orange jumpsuit. He squinted. Then his eyes widened. A flicker of disbelief, then dawning recognition. Slowly, deliberately, the judge took off his glasses and set them down. He pushed his chair back and stood up. It was a gesture of profound respect Cole had never seen a judge make for a defendant. The courtroom, sensing the seismic shift, fell utterly silent. "Mr. Van Damme." Judge Evans' voice was filled with a strange reverence. Is that really you?" The man in the jumpsuit gave a slight nod. "It is, Your Honor. Though I prefer my current accommodations less than my usual ones." A few nervous chuckles rippled through the room. Cole's blood ran cold. Van Damme. The name crashed into his memory like a freight train. The muscles from Brussels. The action star from the posters of his youth. Bloodsport. Kickboxer. He felt the eyes of everyone in the room turn to him. The confident smirk on his face dissolved into a mask of pale, clammy shock. His entire justification, his professional instinct, his very sense of reality, evaporated under the fluorescent lights of the courtroom. The judge sat back down, his gaze now fixed on Cole, hard as granite. "Officer Cole," he said, his voice dangerously low. "Were you aware you were arresting a globally recognized martial arts icon and film star?" Cole's throat was dry. No, Your Honor. I was not." "I see." The judge's words hung in the air, thick with disappointment. "And the resistance you reported, did it, by any chance, look more like discipline?" Cole had no answer. He stood there, his authority stripped away, feeling smaller and more foolish than he ever had in his life. He was no longer in control. He was the spectacle. The silence in the courtroom was a crushing weight. Jean-Claude Van Damme broke it. "Your Honor," he said, his voice calm and clear, "I do not wish to press charges against the officer." A collective sigh of relief went through the room, most of it from Cole himself. But Van Damme wasn't finished. However, he continued, turning his gaze toward the shell-shocked officer, "I believe this was not an error of malice, but of perspective. An education is required." He looked back at Judge Evans. "I have a proposal. Instead of disciplinary action, I request that Officer Cole be ordered to attend a 1-week training and sensitivity program. At my facility." Judge Evans leaned forward, intrigued. "Your facility?" "The Peak Performance Center. It is in the mountains, not far from here," Van Damme explained. "He will be my guest. We will work on perspective." The judge looked at Cole, whose face was a mixture of humiliation and disbelief. He saw a man who had built his identity on a foundation of rigid control, a foundation that had just been shattered. He picked up his gavel. "Officer Cole, you are hereby ordered to report to Mr. Van Damme's facility for 1 week, starting tomorrow. This is not a request. This is a court order. Case dismissed." The gavel fell with a sharp crack that echoed Cole's breaking point. The drive into the Virginia mountains the next day was a journey into exile. Cole's cruiser, once his kingdom, now felt like a cage on wheels, transporting him to his punishment. He passed a simple, elegant sign carved from dark wood, the Peak Performance Center. The gate slid open silently, revealing a winding road that led to a stunning architectural marvel. It wasn't a dojo or a gym, it was a fusion of both. Sleek buildings of glass and steel were nestled seamlessly into the mountainside, connected by stone pathways and gardens of raked sand. It exuded an aura of disciplined serenity that made Cole's skin crawl. Van Damme was waiting for him on a large, open-air deck with a polished hardwood floor that overlooked the valley. He was barefoot, wearing loose black training pants and a simple white t-shirt. He watched Cole approach, his expression unreadable. "Welcome to my home, Officer Cole," he said, his voice devoid of any triumph. Cole stood stiffly, his uniform feeling like a suit of armor. "I'm here because I was ordered to be." "I know why you are here," Van Damme said, taking a step closer. The air around him felt charged, dense with a power that had nothing to do with aggression. "But you must understand the rules. For 1 week, you are not Officer Cole. You are just Michael. There is no badge, no gun. You will wear the uniform I provide. You will eat the food I provide. And you will train when I say train." He paused, letting his words sink in. "Your strength, your military training, it has made you hard. Rigid. Like an old tree that will snap in a storm. I am going to teach you how to be like the mountain water, flexible, adaptable, but with the power to wear down stone." He turned to look out at the vast expanse of green. "You came here to learn how to fight. But you will leave understanding when it is not necessary to fight at all. That is the first rule." Cole said nothing. He just stared at the man who had effortlessly dismantled his world, feeling the profound, terrifying dread of being utterly powerless. The first day of training was a systematic demolition of Michael Cole's ego. It began not with combat, but with an hour of grueling flexibility work. Van Damme led the session, moving his own body into positions that defied both age and gravity. Cole, whose muscles were dense and conditioned for explosive power, found himself stiff, awkward, and embarrassingly limited. The other students, a mix of young athletes and seasoned martial artists, flowed through the movements like reeds in the wind. Cole felt like a block of granite. "Your body is a record of your mind, Michael," Van Damme said, pressing gently on Cole's back during a hamstring stretch, forcing him inches deeper into a world of pain and resistance. "Your mind is rigid, so your body is rigid. We must unlock both." Later, he was introduced to the punching bags. Here, Cole felt he could reclaim some ground. He unleashed a barrage of powerful, military-grade strikes, his knuckles cracking against the heavy leather. Van Damme watched, unimpressed. He walked over, holding a glass bottle with a simple plastic cap. He placed it on a post 5 feet away. "That," he said, pointing to the bag, "is destruction. Anyone can do it. It requires no thought." He then looked at the bottle. "This is control." He moved with a sudden, breathtaking blur of motion. His leg snapped out in a perfect roundhouse kick. The toe of his foot connected with the cap, sending it spinning into the air while the bottle remained perfectly still, untouched. "Your turn," Van Damme said simply. Cole tried. He kicked with all his might, and the bottle shattered, spraying water everywhere. He tried again, focusing, and missed entirely. Frustration burned in his chest. For the first time, he understood the chasm between brute force and precision. The crucible intensified when Van Damme introduced him to his sparring partner. "Michael, this is Leo." A young man, no older than 19, stepped forward. He was wiry, with watchful eyes that held a history. Cole recognized him instantly. Leo was a kid he'd slammed against the hood of his cruiser 6 months ago for loitering outside a convenience store. The charges were dropped, but Cole had never forgotten the look of defiant fear in the boy's eyes. A look he now saw again. "We've met," Cole said gruffly. "He remembers," Leo said to Van Damme, his voice laced with sarcasm. Their sparring was a disaster. Cole's every move was an attempt to dominate, to overpower. He came in hard, fast, and aggressive. Leo, who had been training with Van Damme for a year, didn't try to match his strength. He simply moved, deflecting Cole's bull-like charges with subtle pivots and angles, using Cole's own momentum to send him stumbling off balance. He never struck back. He just evaded, his fluid defense a constant, infuriating mockery of Cole's power. "You are still fighting the world." Van Damme's voice boomed across the deck. "You are not fighting him. You are fighting your own fear. Fear that if you do not control everything, you will be consumed." Exhausted and humiliated, Cole stood panting in the center of the floor. He looked at Leo, who was standing calmly, not even breathing heavily. Then he looked at Van Damme. "What do you want from me?" he yelled, his voice cracking with desperation. Van Damme walked toward him, his presence calming the storm inside Cole. "I want you to stop fighting," he said softly. "And start listening. To him. To yourself. The real battle is not out here. It's in here." He tapped his finger gently on Cole's chest. The turning point came on the 5th day, under a sky the color of bruised plums. The air was heavy, promising rain. Van Damme led Cole and Leo to a smaller, more private training space, enclosed by paper screens that diffused the light into a soft glow. "Today, no striking. No winning," Van Damme announced. He handed Cole a black silk blindfold. "Today, we learn to trust something other than your eyes. Your eyes have deceived you, Michael. They look for threats, and so they find them everywhere." Cole's heart hammered against his ribs as he tied the blindfold, plunging himself into a world of darkness and sound. "What's the exercise?" he asked, his voice tight. "Leo will move around you. He will approach. He will touch you, on the shoulder, the arm, the back. Your task is not to block him or stop him. Your task is to feel his approach before he makes contact and simply, move with him. Yield. Flow around him." It sounded impossible. In Cole's world, yielding was losing. The first time Leo approached, Cole's entire body tensed. He felt a presence to his left and instinctively raised an arm to block, a hard, jerky motion. He felt Leo's hand make contact with his forearm. Failure. They tried again. And again. For nearly an hour, Cole failed. His military training, his cop instincts, were all screaming at him to anticipate, intercept, and neutralize. He was a wall, and Leo kept finding ways to touch it. Frustration gave way to exhaustion. His muscles ached, his mind raced, and the darkness of the blindfold began to feel suffocating. "Stop trying to predict." Van Damme's voice cut through his internal chaos. "Stop thinking. Your thoughts are the enemy right now. Just breathe. Listen to his feet on the wood. Feel the air move. Just, be." Something inside Cole finally broke. He was too tired to fight, too drained to resist. He let his shoulders slump. He took a deep breath, and for the first time, he just listened. He heard the whisper of Leo's clothing, the subtle creak of a floorboard to his right. He didn't build a defense. He just acknowledged it. As he felt the shift in air pressure, he didn't block, he simply swayed to the left, a soft, fluid motion. He felt a flicker of air as Leo's hand passed exactly where his shoulder had been. It happened again. And again. He wasn't fighting anymore. He was dancing with a shadow, moving in a state of pure reaction, a flow state he had never known. When Van Damme finally said, "Enough," Cole pulled off the blindfold, blinking in the soft light. Leo was standing before him, his expression no longer guarded, but open. For the first time, Cole didn't see a former suspect or a training partner. He saw a young man he had wronged. "I'm sorry," Cole said, the words coming out hoarse, raw, and completely unforced. "For that night. I was wrong. I was scared, and I made you pay for it. I am sorry." Leo looked at him for a long moment, then gave a slow, single nod. It wasn't forgiveness, not yet. It was something more valuable, acknowledgement. In that moment of shared vulnerability, the rigid armor around Michael Cole's heart finally cracked open. Returning to his patrol car a week later was a surreal experience. The uniform felt different. The badge over his heart felt not like a symbol of power, but of weight, the weight of responsibility. The lessons from the mountains echoed in the quiet of the cruiser: control, not destruction. Presence, not dominance. A call crackled over the radio. A disturbance at a local park. Two teenagers, escalating toward a fight, a crowd forming. The old Cole would have hit the sirens, arriving like a thunderclap to impose order. The new Cole killed the lights a block away and walked toward the scene. He saw them in the middle of a basketball court, two boys posturing, chests puffed out, their friends goading them on. It was a powder keg, and the old Cole would have been the spark. Instead of shouting, he walked calmly to the edge of the crowd. He didn't push his way through. He just stood there, his presence quiet but solid. He made eye contact with one of the boys, the more aggressive of the two. "Hey," Cole said, his voice calm, pitched just loud enough to cut through the noise. "What's your name?" The boy, startled, shot back, "What's it to you, cop?" "My name is Michael," Cole said, ignoring the title. "And I see two guys with a lot of energy. This court is for basketball, not for breaking hands. You break your hand in a stupid fight, you can't play. You can't work. You can't even hold your phone right." He wasn't threatening. He was stating a fact. The simple, non-confrontational logic seemed to confuse the boys. The tension flickered. "There's a better way to prove you're strong," Cole continued, his voice still even. "It takes more strength to walk away than to throw a punch. Everyone here knows that." He let the silence hang. One by one, the kids filming with their phones slowly lowered them. The audience was gone. The fight fizzled out, its fuel source cut off. Later, Cole found the more aggressive boy, whose name was David, sitting alone on a bench. He sat down a few feet away. "Tough day." David shrugged. "Tough life." Cole nodded. "I know a place," he said. "A guy. He teaches you how to handle all that energy. How to control it, so it doesn't control you." He pulled out a card for Van Damme's youth program. "He helped me. He can help you." David looked from the card to the officer, a flicker of hope in his wary eyes. That night, Cole sat in his quiet apartment, holding his polished badge in his palm. It didn't feel like a weapon anymore. It felt like a bridge. He finally understood. True control wasn't about making others fear you. It was about giving them a reason not to be afraid. This story is a reminder that our greatest strength is often found in our moments of greatest humility. If you were moved by this journey of transformation, hit that like button, subscribe for more powerful stories, and share this with someone who needs to see it. In the comments below, tell us about a time you misjudged someone. Let's create a space for understanding. Please comment with respect for everyone's experience.